First, let's just get some of the obvious family stuff out of the way. Okay. Oh, how do you like my shirt? My sister says that this is what happens to people who still believe in the hippie religion when they're 70. She would die if I told you I let you know how old we are. And yes, she's only a year and a half younger than me. So she's old too, okay? But, you know, look at her, look at me. I'm a happy person. She's not. In spite of how hard I have tried to show her a good example for what a happy person is, like a big sister ought to do. Oh, so the dancing elephant in the corner of the room and actually all over the damn house, in my opinion. My sister and Alicia, my niece, don't get along primarily because my sister is one of these people who always does the right thing. And she can't understand why, since people like her always do the right thing, the world is still fucked up. And she had a daughter who got pregnant at 14. She has a daughter who she tried to make have every advantage in life. And my niece chose to get her MFA and promptly, right out of grad school, get a job as a cocktail waitress. And she's always been a cocktail waitress. She hasn't painted. Actually, I don't think she's painted since she did her thesis portfolio. She says, life is my art form. Doesn't that sound like a hippie religion sort of thing? That's what her mother thinks. Oh my God. Do I have, jeez. I didn't look after I put it on. I do that half the time. So I walk around the city with pink, or I have this blue color that is really something. Really something. What's the word? Awesome. It's awesome. It's the bomb. I love those words. I love all those crazy slang words. When I was still working, I'll get to that in a minute. When I was still working, of course, I'm a social worker and I'm going into neighborhoods, and I sounded really cool all the time because, of course, I'm picking up all this stuff from my clients, right? Oh, naturally, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, the job thing. So the other thing that my sister, and I'm not saying this to be a bitch or to be mean. I love my sister. I don't really need to stay here. And in fact, I think if I'm starting at the end. Well, actually, I'm starting kind of at the denouement of this little story. Okay. I was a social worker, and I had to do a lot of driving. I had to do a lot. I was really in good shape because I would go to any length to try to have contact with one of my clients, with somebody who I felt responsible for. Of course, I'm responsible for that person. And I don't even know how it happened. I think I had 2 injuries, and the second one is what really fucked me up. I helped a client lift her mother, who her mother was, I think she was like 100 or something, and we needed to get her into her wheelchair, and she was, you know, like old people get. Hopefully I won't, knock wood. And I pulled something. I mean, we both heard it snap. My client and I both heard it snap. But I felt fine. And so then, about a week later, 2 or 3 weeks later, I have this fender bender, and I snap back, which of course screwed up my neck, and then I snapped forward, and I could barely move all of a sudden. Barely moved. And I was really messed up. And it took months for me to recover, and I was on short-term disability. And then, when I wanted to go back to work, I realized I couldn't drive. Because I couldn't even sit. And for, long periods of time. And I sure as hell couldn't go running after some little juvenile delinquent or something, or run away from some gangster. And they put me on permanent disability. Well, by the time they did that, I had already moved into this house, and it is, it's a gorgeous house. You've probably seen some of this house. It's fantastic. She is really smart with money. We're lucky to be able to live in a beautiful place like this. My parents did okay. They were both professionals, but we didn't live anything like this. But by the time I was on disability, I really could have been on my own again. I lived on my own, and I couldn't live. I couldn't live like on the 8th floor, a walk-up or something. But I still think that they should have found a way to accommodate me. But this was so long ago, and they were fighting the ADA at every step they could, and accommodations just weren't me. They just weren't. And so anyway, I stayed here because I think that people like my sister, paint themselves into a corner, and it's a very saintly corner, but it's also a very lonely corner. I don't want my sister to be alone. And we both hope that at some point, whenever I know for sure she's off that day, I go over there. And sometimes she won't even talk to me. But I go over there anyway, just to maintain the contact. And because My sister are my clients now. They're my charges. Neither of them socialize very much. They don't. Neither of them seem to have people that they talk to. And they both hold it inside. I mean, Sandra, my sister, she's repressed. She's like the embodiment of repression. My niece is, I mean, she's really, really interesting. And she talks a lot of hard truth, but I don't think she ever lets it touch her. And so anything that's difficult emotionally to deal with, she kind of puts it in a jar inside her somewhere. You know? That's... The mother is repressed, and the daughter is bottled up tight. Bottled up tight.